everyone, you are listening to Ladies First on ABP Live Podcasts with me, Niharika, Nanda. In this podcast, we talk to some of the ladies and the real girl bosses of the 21st century who have faced their share of hurdles but have rised and been successful nonetheless, and have also inspired women across the world. Today, the woman of substance who has graced ABP Live Podcasts with her presence is IAS Officer Miss Ira Singhal. Hello ma'am, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to be in conversation with you. A woman with a spirit as strong as iron, Ira ji suffers from scoliosis, but this has never ever disrupted her success and her will to achieve everything that she wants to. So ma'am, how did you start your journey? Like, how was your childhood and how did you reach where you are today?
Okay, that's a very tough question to summarize. But I was one of those children in the childhood that, your neighbors tell you ki become like that kid. Unfortunately, I was that kid. So I remember my neighbors used to, kidnap me and lock me in their houses and say, play with our kids and make them like you.
Right.
So I was that nice and very, sober and child who listens to all the teachers and everything. I was never the teacher's pet because I didn't go to them that much.
Right.
But yeah, I was that kid, and I had like so many friends. So so I was very busy in my childhood too.
Right.
But yeah, it was see, besides the medical treatments that constantly keep happening, and you end up being in hospitals, in and out of hospitals, not admitted in my case, but for different treatments and for different checkups, and how things are progressing with your disability. That checkups constantly kept happening. But besides that, I had a very regular childhood in the fact that disability was never made the main theme of my life.
Right.
You know, so I thankfully grew up in a joint family setup, which kind of helped with that, because I was given the same parameters to perform on as the rest of my family.
The rest of your cousins,
Right. So when we all grew up, everybody had the same, tasks to do, and everybody was told the same things. In my case, it was that you have this disability, but that doesn't mean that you don't get to have those other things that you need to do.
Right.
So those tasks are not linked to your health conditions.
Exactly. And it somehow must have created a scenario of equality for you since the very beginning.
Exactly. In fact, in some things, the targets for me were a little higher than the rest of my family. So, that way, and this is something that happens in most households, that children with disability are treated as less than the others.
Right.
Your parents or your family members are constantly telling you, oh, poor you. Poor you, you can't do this. Oh, poor you, you can't do that. In my family, it was more of, you have this issue, but that doesn't mean you don't get to perform on these other issues. And I was also pushed by my dad, and primarily by my dad, and I used to think he's such a Hitler dictator at that point. But yeah, that was a good thing in retrospect. So I was always pushed to try everything. You don't get to say you can't do it if you've not tried it.
Definitely.
So, I've done everything, and I was pushed to be on stage since I think I was 3 or something. So I think that was a big theme of my life, that performance was, the main issue.
Thing, irrespective of any other issue.
So health issues is just a part of your life. It's not your life.
Yes, that's a beautiful way to actually summarize it.
Yes.
And ma'am, since you mentioned your childhood, any particular, and especially being on stage, any particular memory that you have which is very dear to you?
Not as such, but I remember once you know how these fancy dress competitions happen?
Right.
So I was supposed to be the sweeper in one of them.
Okay.
And I broke my tooth that same day.
Oh
my
God.
teeth. So I in my speech that I was supposed to give, I said, see, they give me itty hard roti, and I also broke my tooth.
Oh, so, you added that to the part, right?
So I did win a prize in that. I think
that's what shows that you are a real performer, that no matter of issues, kuch bhi ho, you have to perform and you'll give it your best.
Yes. So I think my childhood is more was I think relatively I would call normal in that circumstance, that disability wasn't the theme of my childhood. But yeah, there's obviously a lot of problems as well, and we had a lot of family problems as well. But I think most families have some issues.
Yeah,
on that,
that's
right.
true.
So yeah, that was pretty normal in that respect.
So, as a woman who decided to change the world and bring a difference, how has your experience been till date? Like, as far as your career is concerned, your exams, the UPSC, you are a UPSC topper and the first one to be a disabled one. I mean, congratulations and
Thank
kudos
you.
on that, because there are people out there who really need that kind of motivation and inspiration that you are providing. So, how has your experience in your career been till date?
I think for myself, I would say that this particular job that I do, which isn't really a job, it's a service. We call it a
Right,
service.
right.
And it's the most emotionally fulfilling thing you could possibly do. Because the strangest thing has been that if an issue comes to me and I think of a solution, I may not get to implement it at that point.
Right.
But
It'll take some time.
I have always found another platform where I could do it. So if
Right,
I had
okay.
one posting, if I came up with some ideas in SDM, I got to implement it when I was in the municipal corporation.
Okay,
And
okay.
if I was in, whatever, it's like life gives you opportunities just if you're looking for them.
Right, right.
And I've worked on almost all issues that gets, in the domain of a common man's problems.
Life
so,
in
yeah.
general, right.
So I've got to work on almost all kinds of issues, and it's that way very rewarding because the one good thing is I think it comes from I'm going to be very honest about it. It comes from the fact that you are an IAS officer, so people do listen to you. So
Right, right.
I once found out something that needed someone's attention, and that it wasn't related to my government. It wasn't related to my department. I just walk up to the officers concerned wherever they are, and I send in my card and I ask for time, and I usually get it so I can put that point across.
Right.
So
right,
that
right.
really helps, and it does come from being very honest about it. It does come
Right.
from being an IS officer. So I think
Definitely.
that way it's been very, very fulfilling. I have worked on so I'm the first person who gave job to a transgender person in
Oh
government
wow, that's
full time
amazing.
anywhere
See,
in
bringing
India.
change in
Exactly.
every step of your life.
I have worked on child labor, child marriage, all issues related to children, related to women,
Right.
on environment issues, and I've been in charge of earning revenue for government, investigations, all sorts of things. You can
Right.
imagine land matters, and it's been really fun in that respect. And
Right.
the good thing is all of our postings are different, so you kind of get a different subject every time.
Every time.
Yeah,
Right.
so that's why. Yeah.
And ma'am, it's amazing that I would think that a lot of people out there, IS officers like you, they would think, "Theek hai, this is not under my jurisdiction, not a part of my department, why should I care?" But it really shows the kind of dedication you have towards the betterment of the lives of
Yeah.
people around you, that you actually ventured out. And what was that particular event,
so,
that thing that you had to work for?
I'll tell you honestly, I didn't come here for a career.
Right.
I didn't come into the civil services because I was looking for a career or I was looking for a job. I already had one.
Right.
I had a very settled career. I had a very high growth trajectory in front of me. In fact, I recently spoke to one of my ex-bosses back from then, and he said that I had told you not to quit for civil services because you were set for a very high career growth.
Right. You were working with
company.
Coca-Cola before
I
that.
was working with Cadbury.
Cadbury.
I interned with Coca-Cola.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. I had that, and they're like, but we're so proud of you now that you did do it. You didn't listen to us and you still did this. And anybody
Right.
would have thought at that point that you're throwing away something that you worked for all your life, and it's a
Right.
base that, it's not a bad career. It was a great
Definitely,
career.
right.
And in terms of personal achievements, it was pretty nice. But
Must have taken a lot of hard work to reach there
yes,
itself.
exactly. So, those jobs are dream jobs for most people. So, people said that, are you sure you want to throw this away? But I was doing this specifically because I wanted to make a difference with my work.
Right.
I wanted to make lives better with my work. And the way I see it, so that's one of the reasons I did file the court case that I did when I got in
Right,
the
right.
IRS, is because I don't see how I should limit myself to only one subject. I
Right,
came here to
right.
make a difference in whatever way I can, and that's why I still go to colleges and I still talk to school kids, and I talk, counsel everybody who comes to me for help, whether on my social media or whether personally or whatever. I don't encourage people coming to my office because that's
Right.
for work.
Yeah, that's for work.
Yeah,
Exactly.
but other than that, I I try helping out everywhere. I mean, that's one of the reasons I would do this podcast as well, because if there is even one person whose life I can affect,
exactly,
why not?
Right.
So I think that's how I see it, that this is my opportunity to make the world a little better, and I don't want to restrict myself to how I do it.
Definitely, and no one should. And I think it's a great thing that you are actually out there and willingly talking to so many people, whether it's students, whether it's school going students, because sometimes they really need the push. And that simple push, like you said, that your dad pushed you in that direction. So that simple push can actually inspire someone to do so much better.
I don't know. I think it's more about you don't really have a direction to think in, and someone kind of gives you that.
Right.
And that makes a huge difference. And
sure.
in our country, one of the bigger problems is that a lot of parents haven't grown up with opportunities.
Right.
So their vision is also very restricted.
Very restricted.
So most kids, they don't have anybody to guide them that way. So I think if somehow you can do that for someone, that makes
it's a
huge
great
difference.
thing, definitely. So, ma'am, you mentioned the court case that you had to file. So, can you tell our audience a little about that?
So when I first got into the civil services, I was selected for IRS, and I hadn't quit my job to get into the IRS.
Okay.
I wanted to work on field, on ground, on specific,
Right.
on social issues and on
On the
public
field,
issues, on public issues, right? So I thought that my rank isn't good enough, so I need to work again. And while I was preparing again, so when you give a civil services exam, there's basically two things that happen. One is the UPSC, the exam conducting body,
Right.
which gives you a rank. And then the Department of Personnel and Training, they give you a service based on your
according
rank.
to the rank.
Yes.
Right.
So my rank came with UPSC, and I knew it wasn't good enough to get into the IAS or IFS. Or so I thought, okay,
We'll
I'll give it
another
again.
shot. Right.
So while I was preparing for my second attempt, I started getting calls from a lot of other candidates who had appeared in that exam with me. And they
Okay.
said, do you know what happened? And I didn't know anything had happened. I didn't even know something happened. So I asked them, what do you mean? And they were like, oh, you don't know what happened to you. So then I started finding out what had happened to me.
Right.
So then I found out that I had been rejected basis my disability.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
because my disability is being accepted by only one service across the country at that point, which was the IAS.
Okay.
And
okay.
IRS was not ready to accept a candidate with my disability, despite the fact that for almost all services across the board, I was eligible on the fact of as a candidate with disability. And when you get selected in UPSC as a candidate with disability, there are two things that you need to match. One is what is your disability, and the second is what is your abilities. So in my case, for the abilities list, I matched almost all the services.
Right.
So these are the abilities required to do the job. But for the disabilities, I did not match any service except for the IRS.
Okay.
And that doesn't make sense. If I can
Right.
do the job, why should you not give it to me?
Exactly. And if
Right?
the abilities match, then the disability shouldn't matter.
Exactly, right? But that was the case. So then all those people who had actually called me were facing similar issues.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Right.
And that's how I decided to go to court, because I didn't really want to do it for myself, because I thought I'll give the exam again and try to improve my rank. But I realized that all of those candidates who were doing it were actually people with disabilities.
Right.
And you must realize that in India, disability is actually a factor of poverty in most cases.
Right.
Because
right.
how do people get disabled in India in majority? One is parents mother at during her pregnancy did not get the proper nutrition,
Right.
did not get proper medical care, she did not get proper treatment during delivery, and there are post-delivery complications,
Right,
and then
right.
children did not get proper care in the childhood. So a lot of disabilities would happen.
Stem from there,
Yes.
that issue.
Genetic disabilities is a rather smaller percentage.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, but most disabilities actually do spring out of poverty in some
and
way.
the lack of the ability to actually
Yes.
get medical
Yes.
help. Right.
And even if it isn't, majority of people in India are, at that point were poor.
Right.
Right?
Definitely.
I remember the data. It's almost 70% of people could be considered poor in India at that
Okay,
point.
wow.
So think about it. Most people, you're already poor. Disability brings in a lot many issues, a lot much.
Definitely.
Many treatments are required. You don't have access to accessible infrastructure, accessible schools. So for a child with disability to clear an exam like Civil Services Exam of India,
is in itself a huge
Herculean
thing.
task, right?
Right.
And to give you a perspective, Civil Services Exam of India is amongst the 2 toughest exams in the world.
Definitely.
So these are people who have cleared that exam
and still are
after
being
them,
given another hurdle to cross
Yes.
without any
So
particular
all of the
fault
people
of
in the
theirs.
general, merit or in any other reserved category, they don't have to face this extra burden already, right?
Right.
So, and imagine if you're a child who's also from a reserved category in terms of caste, and you are also
Disabled, and you're facing the double
Yes,
whole pressure of the whole thing.
Yeah, so I thought that I came in here to make a difference. So maybe this is how I'm supposed to do that.
Right.
So I had earned well, and I come from a relatively well-off family at that point. So I thought this might
Why
be
not?
Yeah. So maybe
It's all the more a reason to
Yes.
go ahead with it.
Yes. So maybe I can change this thing for other people. It didn't really happen with the court case, but that set a precedent, so other people could use that. And but the good thing that did come out was because all of this court case and everything got highlighted when I got into the IAS as rank 1. They actually sat and reworked this whole thing. So they opened up a lot many more posts for people with
That's
disability
so
across
great.
the country. Yes. So almost 3,000 new posts were
Wow.
identified, and this is new posts. So if it's like chemistry teacher, so that's a post. So
Right.
3,000 such posts. Chemistry teacher is a post in multiple colleges. So you multiply that.
Right. Okay, so that's just 3,000 posts, but again, when you multiply the institutes, so that increases.
Yes. So it's like a chemistry teacher can be a person with these kind of disabilities.
Right.
But
okay.
a chemistry teacher is not just one post across India, it's multiple posts.
Yes.
So if you
definitely.
think about it like that, it opened up lakhs and lakhs of posts for people with disability.
That's amazing, and it's
Yeah.
all because of your effort.
Not really, but I mean, I wouldn't say it's because of my effort. It's more because, at least, my case did help highlight that issue.
The issue.
Yes.
And as you said in the beginning that you were lucky to get the opportunities
Yes.
to
Come here.
Exactly.
Yes.
And the ideas that you got probably even at different stages of your life, you were able to execute them,
Yes.
even though at a later stage, but you were.
Yes.
So that's a
I
huge
think,
thing.
In our job, if you want to, you will get an opportunity. It may not
Definitely.
come early, it may not come the time that you want
Want
it to,
it.
or you think it should, but it does come.
It does come. So, ma'am, can you share a bit that right now we have to agree in a sort of a patriarchal society, and that does give a certain edge to men.
Yes.
So, when it comes to a job like yours, a
Yes.
career like yours,
Yes.
do you think that there is a difference in the kind of experience that women get and the kind of experience that men have? Maybe a preferable experience
I
of the
think
sort.
in some ways, it's a better experience, and in some
Okay.
ways, it isn't.
Okay.
So, for example, unfortunately, for men today, when they join as an officer, the world's expectation from them is lower.
Okay. Okay.
The world doubts their intentions a little more than it
women.
does of a women
okay.
officer.
Okay.
So if you're a woman officer, people don't instantly doubt your
Right,
intentions.
right, right.
So you at least start from zero. For men,
You don't at least have a lower ground of
Yes.
rising from.
Right. So in that respect, it's a little better.
Okay.
But then you do come from a patriarchal society. You do come from a system of. See, you can't. Government doesn't work in isolation from the society.
Society, right.
All people
right.
in government also come from the same society, right?
Yes.
So what actually happens is that at the end of the day, the responsibility of the family does
fall on the man.
No,
Right.
the female.
Okay, that way, right. Of
So,
taking care of the family,
yes.
right.
So when the woman officer comes back home, she again
right.
becomes a woman. So I remember a batchmate of mine. We didn't tell her that a proposal had come for her. A marriage
Okay.
proposal came for her while we were in probation. And this lady, who was the mother of another IAS officer, male officer, my friend is extremely qualified, very pretty, and the only thing is she has larger pores
Okay.
than visible pores on her skin, and she was very fair also, by the way.
Okay.
Like white skin category. But the guy's mother says, oh, but she has those pores on her face, and we were flabbergasted. Like,
Right.
really, that's
That's exactly
that's how you're
it.
judging an IAS officer. And this was another officer's mother.
Who
And
already knows the kind of work that goes into
Yes.
becoming that.
not even that. Is that how you still judge women?
Right, right.
I
Even of
mean-
the kind of qualification your son has.
Yes. And, those kind of things still keep happening. So, and when that family thing comes in, it's at the end of the day, the children and the family is still, if both of them are officers, then what is happening at the home is still a responsibility of the lady
mother,
officer.
right,
Yeah.
right,
So,
right.
a lot of times when it is a choice between postings, it's the wife and
Yeah.
the female. And I'll give you another example. So, did you know this? I'm going to ask you to guess.
Okay,
In the marriage market, and by the way, in India, everything runs on marriage market.
right, right.
Okay? As a woman, your career will be decided on how
Exactly.
desirable you're going to be in marriage market,
Right,
right?
right.
Your parents will let you have opportunities that make you desirable in marriage market.
Right.
Your whole life is structured about your being
Able to
Touch.
get right.
a good match for yourself in marriage market.
Definitely.
And marriage
Your
market
parents,
is
even
defined.
though they'll motivate you to do whatever you want, but they'll
No.
in the end they'll also say कि थोड़ा
नहीं,
ऐसे
नहीं,
देख लेना
motivate-
कि हो जाए.
वो मोटिवेट ना बहुत ही कम फैमिलीज में होता है.
Right.
I've seen that happen. बहुत कम फैमिलीज में होता है. मोस्टली फैमिलीज में यही होता है. मोटिवेट भी उसी एक्सटेंट तक होता है जहाँ पे लड़कों की क्या डिमांड है लड़की से.
हाँ, right, right.
So what kind of a woman do people want? That defines this thing. So as a guess, what is the lowest rung job, lowest 3 jobs or 4 jobs in marriage market according to you?
That would like
Lowest.
qualify for a match.
Yes, like the women that people just don't want to marry.
Okay,
By the way,
wild
if
guess.
you're
Right.
Willing to be a housewife, that's a very high qualification.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
right.
it's a very high qualification.
Whether or not the lady herself would be willing to do that, but that's a very high qualification.
That's a very high qualification. Right.
So maybe, I don't know, taking a wild guess here, a teacher? Although
Teacher is the highest.
Okay.
Teacher profession is the highest. I will give you stories about that.
Maybe a journalist, because journalists don't have a lot of time in their
Not
hands.
at all. Not at all. Not at all.
Okay.
The lowest is actually a lawyer.
Oh,
And the
okay.
second lowest is a cop.
Ah,
Third lowest, if you're in government jobs, then would be a foreign service officer.
okay.
And the fourth would be an IAS officer.
So the last one is an IAS officer.
No, the last one is the lawyer. I'm
As a
going
lawyer,
up.
okay. You're going
And the
bottom
logic
up.
is, एक lawyer और एक पुलिस वाली तो जेल भिजवा देगी.
Oh God.
Because apparently we are all criminals and we are going to abuse her.
Right.
So she
right,
will have to send us to jail.
Right.
And a lawyer and a cop will not take,
Won't be
Abuse.
submissive at all in any case.
right, she will
Right.
not take our abuse. So people are not willing to marry them.
Oh my God.
Okay. And
Right.
the third foreign service officer is mainly because वो दिन घर में कहाँ रहेगी. तो कौन करेगा घर का काम.
Right.
वो तो बाहर घूमती रहेगी.
Hmm.
IAS officer is still a little better, but अब ड्रॉप तो जमाएगी ना.
Right, right.
You know?
बॉसी होने का
हाँ.
उनको आदत होगी.
हाँ, और ड्रॉप तो जमाएगी ना. बट चलो फिर भी वो चल जाएगी. बट डू यू रियलाइज दैट इज व्हाट वी आर डूइंग. So
Right.
that's how, and that also then defines the kind of environment that women get after marriage to develop
Right.
their careers.
Careers, right.
Right? A lot of times you might have to sacrifice certain opportunities because you can't go.
Right. right, definitely.
You have the responsibility of the family.
There is,
so for example,
it becomes a restriction in itself.
exactly. For example, for foreign study opportunities, or for those postings which are outside, or those postings
Right.
which are very high.
Not probably in your hometown.
Not even that. I think for us there is no hometown. There is no concept of a hometown posting.
right.
But the point is, if it's a posting where you need to work really, really hard and you're constantly in
Right.
office,
And timings are a
those-
little tough.
yes, those can become a challenge.
Challenge, definitely.
So you can do them a little easier in the starting of your careers, but when it comes to the later part, when your kids
Yeah.
are in their teens and or maybe pre-teens,
And probably need a little more attention,
yes,
so
yes.
it is still
You know,
expected
Ira
out
will
of
not
the woman.
be able to do all the things that you need to be there for.
Right,
So
right.
those times it gets tough.
It does, it
So,
does, for
you
sure.
know, in the beginning there's less of a difference, but when you grow, you can see a lot of difference, and that's the same in the corporate, by the way.
Right,
It
right,
is
right, right.
exactly the same in the corporate. A lot of women drop out after 3-4 years, 5 years,
Right, right.
because
Once they're married, or probably they've conceived a
Yes,
child
yes,
during that period
yes.
of their time.
because so women are born with the guilt of being born a woman.
Right,
And
right.
you live the whole of your life trying to justify your existence as a woman, you know, to prove that it wasn't a bad thing that I was born a woman.
Right.
You know?
I can do whatever a man can, but
No,
still.
no.
Okay, not
I'm
in
a
that
good
sense.
girl.
Right. To prove yourself.
Not to prove yourself, to prove that your parents made a decent choice to let you be born and stay alive as a girl.
Right.
So women do not step out of line. They always try to perform well in studies. They do whatever their parents tell them to do.
Right.
Because
that's so true.
Yeah, because you're born with the guilt of being born a woman.
Born
आज भी when a daughter is born, what is the thing that everybody says? अरे कोई बात नहीं, नहीं नहीं हमारे यहाँ तो लक्ष्मी आई है जी, हम तो खुश हैं,
हाँ.
कोई बात नहीं.
Right.
कभी किसी को, why are you justifying this?
Right. You don't have to. It's
If
a
you're
girl, it's a
justifying
child
this,
after all.
If you're justifying this, then that
That
means
means that there is an issue. Like you
Yes.
are thinking that this is not
yes,
how it should
or
have
the world
been.
is telling you that.
Right.
Right? The fact that this is happening means that there is an issue with
There
you
is an
being
issue.
born a girl.
Exactly.
You know, doctors and nurses will say, अरे कोई बात नहीं, घर की लक्ष्मी आई है जी, ऐसे कोई बात नहीं,
Because
right?
they expect the parents to sort of be in a sadder mode than
Yes.
they would have been if it had been a
Yes,
boy.
right? And
Right.
why do we need a law which says don't kill your girl child?
Right. That in itself questions the whole
And
concept.
that's still happening, and by the way, much more in the richer families than poor families.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
PCPNDT Act is much more for the richer families than the poor families.
My God.
Richer families are more likely because you know what? For them, my money will get divided and go to the girl.
Right.
किसी और के परिवार में
right.
our wealth will go, ना?
हाँ, जबकि in the case of a guy, that wouldn't be the case.
Yes.
It'll
so
stay in the
yeah,
family.
Yeah.
Wow.
And our name will not be carried. No, another family's name will be carried.
So, ma'am, keeping all of this in mind, what are the kind of things that you feel that we can change so that
As
such
women-
perspectives towards women seriously need to bring about
I
a change?
think education is where I
Right,
see this
right.
most. In schooling, in college level, all of that, I think it's changing. You know,
It
in
is.
urban areas, it is changing. Over the years, it will change, but I think there's a lot more to be done.
Right.
There's a lot more to be done,
Right.
Especially in the semi-urban and rural setups and smaller towns. And I think one thing is if women themselves, because somewhere we accept this.
Right.
And
we
we
take
keep-
it upon ourselves that it's okay. Ab jo
Yeah.
hai, we'll
No,
deal
not
with
even
it.
that. We do that with our sons, right?
Right. Again, the example that you yourself mentioned.
Yes.
Right.
We do that with our sons, right? We somewhere, because we were brought up in that environment, we kind of don't question it. See, women are taught not to question.
Right.
And you then don't question the wrong things that have been taught to you and you kind of perpetuate them on other people.
Right.
So
You keep on
somewhere-
continuing it.
Yes. Somewhere we need to break that chain. Somewhere we need to kind of cut that cycle. So
Right, that's very important. So, since you mentioned all of this, there are women out there who need that kind of motivation, the spirit that you have. So, what is the kind of advice or the tips that you would like to give to women out there, to young girls out there who want to make a difference but again are caught in the vicious cycle of being a woman, being born a woman, being told that you are a woman, so don't do this, don't do that. What is your advice?
I think my one advice is stop letting the world tell you what you can be, who you can be, and how much you can be.
Right.
So start thinking for yourself. And a lot of times you will not have any support system, but if you look carefully, you will find someone to help you. And of course, a lot of times you will have to stand up for yourself. You will have to ensure that the journey you're on is meant for you. So stop letting the world tell you who you can be. Stop letting the world define your boundaries. Stop letting the world define your capabilities.
Right.
And you're the only person who knows you. You're the only person who thinks like you, who lives like you, who has experiences like you. So nobody
Right.
else can tell you who you can be.
Right.
So I think that's the biggest advice I have, that don't let someone else tell you what you are and who you can be.
And what you should do.
Yes.
It's all on you.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining me here on ABP
My
Live
pleasure.
Podcast today, ma'am. You are such a huge inspiration for so many of us out there. And again, as you said, that if even through your work, if you could just inspire one person, that's a big deal, and you're inspiring so many. So thank you so much for being with us on Ladies First today, and for being a true girl boss to so many people.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you
Thanks.
so much, ma'am.